Tavern. What's the news today? Have a drink, have your say. All opinions here today. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Enjoy your stay. Weddy, GA, and Matt are here today. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Come and have your say.
It can't really be good for the sport, can it? The way that the Premiership is panning out at the moment, I mean, you have a two-tier league and it's not nice, it's not good. You can already see who the top four will be, barring injuries, and let's be honest, even with injuries. And the scoreline after scoreline of 60-plus wins, that just tells a story that we should all be worried about, I think. Is it time... Actually, it was time a year ago. Is it time for some form of rider control to be introduced? Personally, I think it might well be. Over to you, Phil Morris. Only in Speedway. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Good evening.
All good.
Yeah. And how are you doing, Chris?
I'm good.
What do you think? I mean, it's not good, is it? This
There's been streaming, isn't there? I mean, you don't mind the old 60-30 now and again, do you? But
it's been
not seem like unless you're a Cardiff fan. I mean, obviously they love the 60-30s every week, don't they? But it's at the moment. I mean, we were in this same situation last year, weren't we? Though, because right at the start of the season, you knew pretty much who the top four were going to be, and it's going to be the same again this season.
I think you almost know who's going to win it this year, but
well, we thought that last year.
Yeah.
To be fair, and of course it went wrong.
Barring injuries, of course,
for Ipswich. But no, we were discussing this last night. I know rider control was obviously frowned on because it was here before, and it would work, but it depends on who's actually administering it. Because
this is why I said done, over to you, Phil Morris.
If it's done in the way that it used to be in the 70s and 80s, well, more so in the 70s, I think, it caused a lot of problems, didn't it? Because you had people just picking riders. Well, you got to go there halfway through the season, and even if riders didn't want to go, so.
The obvious case being Ollie Olsen refusing to leave
to go to Hull,
and leave Coventry. So
yeah.
I don't envisage a rider control of that sort, but there needs to be some way of doing this.
There's an argument as well that they should have put the points limit down because we're seeing more of the top riders now coming back to the UK, and you've got obviously Ipswich being the prime example. Obviously, Seifutenhoff and Dodd in the same team. Yeah, they've not done anything wrong. They've built a team within
the rules. Yeah,
within the rules.
And within their budget,
you've got
I guess.
Sheffield obviously with the Holder brothers obviously with Ty as well as it would have been at the start of the season. And you've almost got two leagues within a league, haven't you? You've got Oxford struggling, Kingsley struggling, Birmingham struggling.
We're all looking forward to next week at Birmingham because it's the chance to avoid the wooden spoon. It's that. That part that early in the season and woohoo.
Well, you're looking at last night. I mean, the other meeting obviously was Kingsley against Oxford. That meeting, you would have looked at that and thought, well, that's going to be pretty close because it's two sides that are really struggling, and Kingsley just wiped the floor with Oxford, didn't they? Oxford have really got big problems.
Big problems.
It's going to be the problem as well. Is I've heard all sorts of rumours about riders coming in later in the season, when the sort of fixtures have settled down a bit like last season when Birmingham brought Freddie Lindgren in. The problem is it's too late.
Yes.
You're bringing in a rider for June, July.
Particularly when you only got seven teams in the league, it's done, isn't it?
We were discussing this last night. Really, you look at all the teams in that league, the only one that looks like a team how it should really be built is Leicester. They've got a good number one and solid then all the way through.
Yeah.
You've got Ipswich Ipswich are solid all the way through, but they're just, really
they're
British.
Solid heat leaders all the way through.
Solid heat leaders all the way through. And as Birmingham found out a couple of weeks ago, solid reserves as well.
Yeah.
So it is concerning. There's as I said, years ago, you always got a couple of, maybe one or two meetings that were 60-30, but it's, not 60-30 every week. And it's I'd say it's probably concerning for some of the home promoters as well, because they're having to fork out quite a lot of points money to riders
Yeah.
for getting all these big squads.
We have a few comments. Can you just move it down a little bit for me, please? That's it. Oh, and again, Craig Smith says the average cap is supposed to put a stop to these big scores by evening out the team's averages, so it's almost a level playing field. So is it bad management, or is it down to who can afford to pay the top money for top riders that fit in the team? I think money certainly plays a part.
I think so.
You
Yeah,
know,
we had. I mean, I've mentioned this before, but several years ago, it was about 2003, 2004. We had one season where they didn't have averages; they had rider grading, which had a lot of potential, but because one or two promoters didn't like it at the end of the season, of course they did the usual. And, well, we won't try and work it so that everybody's happy with it. We'll just get rid of it, and they went back to what they had before. The cynical side of me thinks as well that possibly that it wasn't as easy to manipulate the rider grading as it was the averages. But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, make some good points there, and I think, partly it is there is partly money plays its part, of course, and bad management always will play a part in sport, and so it, good management and bad management, so it should. That's part of the game. However, in a league with 7 teams, in a sport that's slowly dwindling, do we really want it to be the case of the teams with the best money having the only shot? Because that's going to kill the sport.
Well, it is, yeah.
Yeah, that will just kill the sport.
It's almost getting like the Scottish Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where it's only going to be. I mean, obviously in that case, it's only 2 teams that are do it. But
Yeah. But you can survive on that because it's football and it's ubiquitous, and there's how many teams have they got? I mean, it's ridiculous. We're down to 7 teams in our Premier League.
yeah, and it's a bit of a nonsense as well that you've got 7 teams and 4 of them will get in the playoffs. You've got more chance of getting in the playoffs than you haven't. So
Yeah, and if one of the rumours that and there's a few rumours flying about last night, but if one of the rumours that I heard last night is true, there's a possibility that a well-known team might not be with us for very much longer. I'm not going to say much any more about that, but that's and it's not confirmed because it was only a rumour. But these are the sort of things that are flying around at the moment. Another good point here from Dave Twine: Brits get a 2.5% bonus on taken off their average.
yeah,
And Ipswich have got 4 Brits in their team. Is that fair?
well, nothing in the rules to say that they can't do that. But
No.
there's the old argument: is it in the spirit of the regulations? Is it just clubs playing the rules?
So their team is built. If you've got 2.5 reduction, they've got a times 4. That's 10 points that they've got to play with. That's match winning, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah.
But then everybody else gets the chance to do that maybe. But of course, the British riders to fill those berths are not actually there.
Yeah.
Of the right sort of averages. This is Ben Crosswell. As a Witches fan, is it bad of me to get a bit bored of easy wins? It's basically who Gates wins at Vauxhall so far this year. Dave Twine says all riders should be equal. I mean, I think that 2.5 reduction's there for a very good reason, which is to try and encourage
Clubs to have British riders.
To have British riders. But maybe they shouldn't be encouraging them to have British riders. Maybe they should be saying, you've got to have British riders. You've got to have 2 or 3 or whatever the number is that they come up with. Every team's got to have a certain amount of British riders. Maybe would be the better way. I don't know.
You might find rules and regulations from outside of Speed might come into play with that. So
we're not part of the European Union anymore.
No.
So I don't think there is anything like that.
possible, yeah.
Lawrence Rogers says it's not 2.5 points, it's 2.5%. So my 10 points is, but it's still 10%.
It's 10%,
So that's interesting points. Is it an unfair advantage for Ipswich, or is it they've just played the game better?
I think that's probably it is. There's a combination of both, isn't there? But Ipswich have certainly and Sheffield as
And
well.
we shouldn't,
both
and we
played,
should
but-
not denigrate Ipswich or any other team for having Brits in their team.
Yeah.
You know, that's just not what we should be doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. We need more British riders, but to have more British riders, we probably need more teams.
Well, I think people are questioning why on earth Poole won't move up and why on earth Glasgow won't move up. I think this is ultimately the reason why, because they're going to come up with no assets, and they're going to have a couple of years where they're going to be in the same position as Birmingham, Oxford, and Kings Lynn. They're going to be struggling, and it suits them to be in the lower league where they're already got very, very competitive at the top of those leagues.
Okay, so Dave Albrighton says, why don't they combine the two leagues home and away once? Well, there's a lot of reasons that they would give us.
Yeah.
How do you make that an even playing field? In other words, are there enough riders available to make that an even? There's not enough riders available, apparently, for 7 teams.
Can you explain that to an idiot, please? I'm talking about me, obviously.
We haven't got...
Why don't they combine the two leagues home and away once?
Yeah, so the two leagues...
Yep.
So at the moment, we've got 7 teams, so we play home and away twice.
Right, okay.
Either combine the two leagues, combine the Premiership and the Championship into one league.
Right, okay.
Then they would only have to. Yeah, so there are lots of reasons that they would give for that. It's possibly less rides for riders, although I would actually dispute that. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case, but I know that the big thing is making sure that the teams that come up. Well, where are the riders they're going to sign?
There's a very simple reason that obviously we combined the two big leagues in 95, 96, and that only lasted 2 years. The big reason that didn't work was because the clubs that were already in the top league all sort of grouped together and decided they weren't going to share any of their riders out, and it was sort of like, well, we'll keep with our 2 or 3 heat leaders, and you Middlesbrough, Exeter, well. Tough. And then they struggled, and then a lot of clubs made massive losses in those 2 years, and that's ultimately why that league didn't work.
Yeah, but it's a different situation now, and it might come to that. It might come to the. I mean, we've been saying it for a couple of years now. We've thought, it might be this year because they might have to. Seven teams in the top division. It goes down to 6.
Yeah.
It's not a league, really, is it?
Well, we've had 6. I think 6 is the lowest we've had, isn't it? So,
can you put it down a bit? There's a couple of points and bear in mind that what I say here is just my point, my personal view, and I don't know anything.
That's true.
Fred Graham says lowering points limit does not work, just weakens the sport, and rider control has never worked, as mentioned by Matt. I think that's not quite what you said, because you also mentioned the rider grading, and you felt that
rider grading
showed some promise.
Yeah.
Lowering the points limit does not work. I can see why. I mean, it is a short-term answer, because then people just end up with higher averages. Because they're right, that's just the way that will work. Because even if you lower the point limits into a team to picking a figure out of the air to 32. You still got 45 points. You've got 90 points in a match to play with, and all those averages have to be averaged out. So people's averages will drift higher than possibly they naturally would be.
Listening to you talking there, it's little wonder that non-Spooner fans go blank when you're trying to explain this, isn't it? So.
I know. But, sorry, can you go back to that one again? Because there was a couple of things that is a problem, but that's always been a problem with messing about with the averages. He says, I was at the only real derby left in the UK, Monarchs versus Glasgow. Great night was had by all, and very hard fought meeting by both teams. I would say Birmingham Leicester's a derby, by the way. I think that's close enough.
It's
close
something
enough.
of a derby, isn't it? It's,
however, I'm talking specifically at the moment of the Premiership. I think the Championship's in a better position than the Premiership, and I think their score lines have not been quite so lopsided as we've had in the Premiership. Okay. Lawrence Rogers, Dan Thompson had 25% and he's disappeared. Lawrence has disappeared.
Sorry.
There you go. A 25% reduction coming out of Rising Star. So that's even more that they got there. It's adds up, doesn't it? It does make it easier to build a team.
It does indeed, yeah.
But we had the chance to do it. Every other had the chance. I'm still so fed up that we didn't keep Tom Brennan, but hey ho. Chris Thorogood, evening chaps. Agree with Fred. Lowering the points limit will lead to less top riders riding here. We need to build the sport and attract more top riders. The issue is clubs are closing faster. No obvious answer. Playing devil's advocate, do we need to have a period of weakening the league and not having top riders here?
Well, we did go down that route for a few years, didn't we? It's only really in the last 4 or 5 years that a lot of the big boys have started to come back to the UK.
It wasn't a plan.
So how can you weaken the league? How does that work then?
Well, see, what I'm going with is if we end up in a position of having to amalgamate the two leagues, the only way that I can see that being...
It would be on the championship right team's terms.
Yeah,
It'd have to be. They wouldn't do it again like they did 30 years ago.
Yeah, so that exactly. So there, at that point, you would have to be looking at, well, there's not enough of these top riders going around, so certain riders, like for instance Grand Prix riders, possibly be banned. I don't know.
I don't know whether if you had a sort of like a, I don't know, 17-team league, I don't think you'd get a lot of these top riders would come over and do that number of fixtures.
That's true as well.
Simple as.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
Okay. Oh, there's lots and lots and lots of highlights here. There we go. Thank you very much. But the issue is clubs are closing. I mean, that's bottom line is that's what's created the situation. This is what I was saying earlier. We need more clubs because if you get more clubs, you've got more opportunities for riders to ride and to get trained up and to become good. Yeah,
this is why we discussed this last week, didn't we? Everybody needs to get behind the bid, obviously, and getting onto Rugby Council to try and make sure that we can get Coventry back. Because clubs like Coventry and clubs like that, they need to be back. We need to get them back as soon as possible. Certainly a club like Coventry, which has got a huge amount of support as well. So,
Craig Smith says, isn't Sheffield Stadium now under new ownership and they've already kicked out the stock cars? Worrying times for the Tigers, you feel. This is another problem with the sport.
Yeah.
We borrow stadiums.
It's not a lot of these clubs aren't going because they're running out of money. They're going because they're not own the stadiums because they've been
kicked out.
We have, very, very financially viable club, and we were told, no, don't want you here after 2023.
I cannot think of another top-line sport, which this once was. I cannot think of another top-line sport that begs and borrows its stadiums.
Do you think there's ever come a time where there's like 5 or 6 big stadiums biggish stadiums sharing?
Who knows?
It's not inconceivable that could happen. That could happen in this area.
Yeah.
Because you've got, obviously, there's so many question marks hanging over Birmingham. Obviously, Wolves have gone, Cradley have gone, Coventry, obviously. I know Coventry are battling to get back into Brandon.
One of the rumours, and I told you lots of rumours I was listening to last night, is that the Cradley project is doing better than people realise. And that's good. That's a real possibility. I can't say too much. I'll talk to you off air about it.
Okay.
But that's a real possibility, and maybe Birmingham could share that something like that, or Wolverhampton, or let's have Tamworth back.
It depends. Well, I think a lot of it as well depends on whereabouts it is. The stadium,
of course. But in this day and age, as long as you've got we need to have Saturdays available as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Need to have Saturdays available,
weekends,
which is obviously another
Yeah.
factor in GP riders and riders riding overseas. So,
do teams ride on a Sunday as well? That's a stupid question.
Yeah, we've got a few teams that ride on there. But
I think that would be another good day.
but it's back to this. So it's begging and borrowing stadiums. It puts us in a bad position.
Yeah,
you can't ride in anymore. That position.
Yeah.
Tracks in fields, as I keep saying. Okay, I think we should move that up. We've got so much on the. We want to get onto the GPs when we can, guys.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's where you are, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Well done to Jan Thompson for winning the Billy Sanders Trophy last Thursday. He is a great prospect to be a top British
Yeah, he's had a
rider,
really good start to the
hasn't
season,
he?
hasn't he, Dan Thompson?
Oh.
Very, very impressed with him at Berry Bar a couple of weeks
People are
ago.
going to be trying to surely book him for guests and stuff while
Yeah.
he's on that low average.
Yeah.
Glasgow.
You think he learned his trade at Perry Bar as well, didn't he? Effectively, because he was him and
Well,
Joe,
and he didn't at Leicester as well.
Yeah.
Glasgow and Poole don't want to move up because of the restriction of race night. Poole on a Wednesday, and that's why they went back to the Championship. Tigers are the same. Fans live for Friday night Speedway.
Friday night's a great night for Speedway. You haven't got to worry about, if you can bring the kids, you haven't got to worry about them going to school the next day.
But
It's just-
you're going back to stadiums again now, aren't you, I suppose?
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh dear.
The big.
Phone again.
Okay.
It's on the door as you come in.
The big
Switch off
problem.
phones.
One of
Having
the
said that,
biggest
mine's on.
problems.
Having
and
said that, I've
we've
got mine
been
on
saying-
silence either.
One of the biggest problems we've got, and we've been saying it for years, is the fact that Poland rule the roost. But we used to rule the roost, and we let go of that roost, so that's down to us a little bit. And also the fact that riders just used to ride for one team.
Yeah, that is a big problem. So
So it's money then, isn't it, really? I mean,
Well, because they have to ride to get to other teams. I mean, they're self-employed for a start
Yeah,
off,
yeah.
so they can.
shut up.
it's going through the window.
I do apologise.
Yeah.
Who is it? Nigel Tolley complaining about what you're saying.
Probably. I don't think so. I haven't said anything too bad. Yeah. What was I saying? Sorry.
We weren't listening.
No, we didn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, obviously not.
obviously rubbish. So anyway, we'll go through some.
Anybody
more
wants to put on the comments, what was GA saying?
Okay, Craig Smith, does ice hockey in the UK borrow stadiums? Not sure if ice hockey is classed as an elite
I think
sport
most
in
of
the
them
UK.
do, don't
But ice hockey, to be fair, they get decent crowds.
they?
Yeah,
So-
it's a slightly different situation because what ice stadium is not going to have an ice hockey team when it brings all that revenue in. It's a
course,
very
yeah.
very different situation, and it's.
Yeah.
I take your point, however.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
They're practically
But
built.
they're not in a situation where they're going to get kicked out.
Yeah.
Is the thing. How would you feel about Wolves, Coventry, Birmingham, and Cradley Stadium? Got to be better than no club. Well, if you, I mean, that's difficult to do, isn't it?
As I said, it depends on whereabouts it is.
It's a track, isn't it? Wouldn't the track take a battering, though?
Well, it depends, doesn't it? It really depends. I mean, I don't think you could have a stadium with 1, 2, 3, 4 teams at it.
No.
I think that would be difficult. Because of the reason that you said amongst
2 is the most I think you could have.
But also, where do you locate those?
Well, if you look at the geography of the area, I mean, say for example, the track was in, I don't know, Acox Green, for example. Can you really class it as Wolverhampton if it's in Acox Green?
Yeah.
So
No, you
that's
can't.
That's the
But so this is what I don't understand. I would
Think
go and
we
watch
could call
my
it something
team Birmingham. I go and watch them race at Ipswich.
Yeah.
They're still Birmingham.
And
They're
the
not
Wolves,
racing
aren't they,
at
the
Birmingham.
Wolves?
They're racing
Yeah.
in Ipswich. So
blooming long commute though, isn't it? So,
It is, well, yeah. But but in these day and age, it never used to be the same. But now people are a lot more mobile than they used to be. But this is why I say you need.
although petrol costs a fortune.
You need a Saturday.
Hit me if you like. What about one combined team? Let's move on.
Yeah. Let me put it to you. What about
No,
Birmingham?
it would
City?
never
Yeah,
happen.
Exactly.
No, it would
Exactly.
never
Yeah, exactly.
It'd never happen. I thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
He didn't even finish the sentence, so you know what we was going to say.
I would possibly go and watch Speedway. It's another place that was like that, but I wouldn't support the team.
No.
It wouldn't be a team I could support.
Yeah.
I might go to the odd, well, this is going to be a good match next week. I might go and watch that sort of thing, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a team that I would support. So
The other problem I think is as well. We're talking about the Premiership, and this came up in the conversations we were having at Perry Bar last night. Is the bonus points, obviously the aggregate bonus point, which certainly favours a lot of teams. Certainly favours teams like Sheffield, Bellevue, because they've got such a strong home track advantage.
Ipswich.
Ipswich as well. I mean, Bellevue last season. I mean,
Strangely enough,
Bellevue
the top three in the league at the moment.
Bellevue weren't the best team in the league last season, but they didn't. They got all the bonus points because they got such a massive home track advantage.
I agree.
So
I know a lot of people don't say it's the fairest track, etc., but you've got to have your bike set up for it.
well, I mean, even in times in previous years, Dawn and Cybertooth have turned up with their Ipswich, and if you go to Bellevue and you don't have your bikes properly set up, then you've got no chance because you're just going to be left for dead on there with the pace of the track. I mean, you're not knocking Bellevue because it's a fantastic racetrack, but there is people who think there's no home track advantage there. There is,
and
a home
I
track
think you
advantage.
can include Sheffield in that.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, without doubt.
And strangely enough, who are the top four?
Ipswich. Yeah.
Yeah.
Leicester as well. You could say that's obviously got a home track advantage, isn't it? Because it's not an easy place to go to. Although, as I've said, Ipswich.
I think Leicester's track seems to have they've made improvements almost every year, and it seems to be getting there now.
Well, I spoke to people who went there when Birmingham were there a few weeks ago, and a lot of people said it was the best match they've seen at Leicester. So,
yeah.
I mean, Leicester's an ideal scenario because they own that. They've got all rights and what on the track.
In
And
fields.
it's exactly. So they've still literally. I mean, you've obviously been to Leicester. It's a lovely little setup there.
It is.
They've really done. I think they could have made. They could have used the space around the area better because there's a lot of space around there that's sort of lying derelict. It would have been. It wasn't really thought out properly on that. Although, as you say, the track. I mean, I haven't been there for about 5 or 6 years now, and it's.
But I don't think it's been a couple of years now since I've been there.
Yeah.
But anyway. We've caught up with all the comments.
We say it every year, don't we? It needs its multi-billionaire owner to have a vision, have the vision what it could be.
I think it almost needs to fall on its arse and start again.
Yeah, start again. Yeah.
Yeah, but it also needs the promoters, I think, to cede a little bit of power, and there seems to be a real reluctance to do that. I mean, the promoters are quite right to have the priority to be with their own club because at the end of the day, that's where their money is. But that does lead to a conflict of interest.
Name me another sport that works like that.
I can't think of many others.
There isn't.
Not that run their own.
No, there isn't.
Are there
one.
any fan-owned clubs? Just like,
No, I don't believe
Not
so.
that
no.
I think so.
Okay.
No.
I'm just saying because it has happened in football quite a lot. Where
It has happened in
fans-
Speedway, but they've never been greatly successful, have they?
Interesting. Yeah, I suppose it's a lot of money to put in, isn't it? Really.
Okay, well, shall we move on to the GPs starting this week? We should actually say great to see Ty Woffenden getting around.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And already talking about riding again.
Yeah.
I think
Anybody think he was a Speedway rider, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it? Crazy.
Yeah.
don't really. Whether he will, I don't know. But I mean, to me, what's he really got left to prove now? And the only reason he would have for coming back is to have another crack at winning a 4th world championship, and he's
Is that likely, do we
I
think?
don't think so. No, I mean, is it when you've been at the top? Is it really worth coming back just to be 7.5, 8 point man when you've been world champion 3 times? I don't know.
He could surprise us all. He's done it before.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's a big ask, I think. But most important thing at the moment is he's got to get himself fit first.
Absolutely. The most important thing is that he's Compos Mentos. He's still Ty Woffenden.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Chris Thorogood says Mildenhall will be fan owned if they can get it fully off the ground.
There you go.
Craig Smith says Leicester is a lovely setup, but I think they could have built a better track with the land that's there. But it's a great stadium. How Speedway, I feel, should be run for clubs looking for some to come back. For example, Coventry could open up like Leicester with basic facilities. Same if Wolves came back, or Swindon. As a sport, we can't have luxury of a stadium like Bellevue. I agree wholeheartedly with that. The big problem, of course, is where.
Well,
You've got to
Coventry,
find the land.
Coventry, if they get back into if they do manage to get Brandon restarted, he's going to be basic because quite clearly those two grandstands are going to have to be pulled
Pulled
down,
down,
because
yeah.
they're barely stand. I don't know how they're still standing, to be honest. The amount of fires and break-ins that they've had on those sites over the years. So it is going to be a very, very. It's going to be not going to be the Brandon of old, but if it's the compromise that Brandon sees bikes roaring around it again, brilliant.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, it's like I've been going on for a couple of years now, haven't I? Tracks in fields, that's what we need.
Yeah.
The
Somerset did
Exactly.
that. And it, unfortunately, of course, COVID scuppered Somerset ultimately. So.
I think COVID did a good job of scuppering Speedway a little bit.
Yeah,
To be
I do
honest,
think so, yeah.
Simon Corbett, Kurtz, Speedway GP each way.
Kurtz might not be a bad shout, to be honest. It could be a bit of a dark horse.
He's certainly in good form.
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence Rodders wants to let us know that the GP is being shown at Aston Manor Cricket Club by Birmingham Speedway Supporters Club. Free entry.
Oh, if you're listening to that in Glasgow, get the bus down, will you?
Craig Smee, great to see the pics of Ty in Rocklaw on yesterday. Sorry, that was
I know
my
what
fault.
you're talking about.
He said he had a goal this year to get into a GP qualifier and come back to the GP. I think with all his injuries, he seriously has to consider his options now. He's very lucky to be alive. If you could expand that for me, that would be cool.
Sorry,
Yeah, I'm sure his wife.
Faye.
I'm sure he's very lucky to be alive. I'm sure his wife Faye will have a big say about it if Ty gets back on a
Oh, bet.
bike again.
Yeah, I bet she will.
Yeah.
Well, he certainly seems set on it, doesn't he? But
He certainly does. I mean, he's had a wonderful career anyway. I mean, the only tragic thing really was that his father never lived to see how successful he went on to become. So.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, so.
For obvious reasons this week. Okay, so GPs, back to the GPs.
Yep.
Brady Kurtz, we've already mentioned as a good shout to win the thing, or are we really going to say
I think he's a potential dark horse because he's fearless, isn't he? And he's not going to show any fear going into a lot of these tracks. He's certainly going to fancy his chances at the two British Grand Prix because he's going to have home track advantage on there, as is Dan Bewley as well. Yeah, I mean it's going to be. I mean all the attention obviously is going to be on Bartos Smiles, isn't it? Because there's a chance obviously now for him to join a very, very elusive club, and with Messrs Major and Rickardsson with 6 World Championships.
Yeah.
That's obviously going to be
That's going to be a pressure.
It's going to be a pressure. Yeah, I mean it was. I remember when Rickardsson managed to equal Major's record initially. And it took him a couple of years. From getting his 5th championship to do it. But as Craig says there, I think Freddie Lindgren. Freddie still feels that he can be a world champion. I was going
to mention
but
Freddie.
it's,
What do you think?
the only thing with Freddie is that he's obviously now he's the one thing that he's got against him now. He's running out of time. And when he's 40 this year, it's hard to believe Freddie Lindgren's going to be 40 years old this year.
We can all name a 40-year-old that has won.
Yeah.
A world champion, Greg Hancock, of course.
Yeah. Greg Hancock was winning world championships when he was well over 40.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, you can't really look past Smarsley because at the moment I think the GP's really a tailor-made for him at the moment. It would be interesting. I don't want to turn this into a GP against world final argument, but how
why
successful?
not? We do it every year.
How successful?
Yeah.
What would he still have been successful if he was riding?
Be
in the
more
World
difficult.
Finals? It'd be more difficult for him. Yeah, I think
Because you only need one mistake
Yeah.
on one particular on that night, and you're not world champion, are you?
Well, at the end of the day, he never rode in the World Final, so we're never gonna know this. So you don't know what sort of approach he would have to it. I think he'd probably have the same approach that he has to all the Grand Prix, just wind it on and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be. He looks to be the favourite, but if I was going to have a bet on somebody as an outsider, I would probably go for Brady Kurtz.
Okay.
Robert Lambert, obviously, he's now got the monkey off his back of having won a Grand Prix. It took him long enough to get that first win, but he finally did it last year. It was runner-up last year, of course.
Who do we think are going to be the best of the Brits?
It's difficult to say because obviously we haven't really seen much of Robert Lambert this year. We're not riding in the UK.
Yeah.
Dan Bewley's had a decent start to the season, I think. So
Not
I'd probably go with Dan Bewley, to be honest.
okay.
As I said, the big advantage is 2 of the Grand Prix, of course. So he's got
Bellevue.
on home soil, so literally on his home track. So
So the first Grand Prix is this weekend at
Landshut in Germany.
Interesting.
It was a decent Grand Prix last year.
It was actually.
So
yeah,
I mean, the perception of German tracks is that it's just flat, dusty, and it's just a guy's paradise. And there was a Grand Prix there many years ago that was like that. But no, last year's was pretty decent, to be honest.
Okay, well, there's a few people looking forward to that. Pen Craswell says Ipswich are doing a coach to the Saturday GP. Can't wait. Are any of you going? No.
This is going to be the first year that I won't be doing the British Grand Prix since 2000.
You don't fancy going to Bellevue then?
Yeah.
Is this the first time it's been at Bellevue?
Yeah.
GP? Right. Okay.
First time it's not been at Cardiff since 2000. I think 2000 was the last one at Brandon. And after that, it's been at Cardiff every year, apart from obviously the 2 or 3 years after COVID. So,
25 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Craig Smith says Brady Kurtz is a big shout to win the world title this season. Also, Phil Lindgren will step it up a gear this season. He's probably got to be thinking, this might be my last chance.
Yeah. It'd be a massive boost, I think, for Swedish Speedway, because Sweden's really been in the doldrums since Tony Rickardsson stopped. He's not really had anybody. Andreas Jonsson got close 1 year, but that was about it. And Freddie obviously was run a couple of seasons ago, although that was sort of skewed a little bit with Smarslet missing that one Grand Prix when he was banned. But
for spurious reasons, we felt.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So we've caught up on the Shetbox.
Yeah.
So have you been checking
I have,
YouTube?
yes. No,
Okay.
YouTube is very quiet tonight.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So we've got. I'm just looking at the time. We're okay for a little bit. Actually, shall we move on to the prediction league
think we
and,
should
then,
do, yeah.
and then catch up with stuff
Do we need
at the
to?
end?
Do we really need to?
Yep.
Okay.
Have you not had a good week?
Well,
Graham?
first of all, we'll have a look at the our last week finished. So, great work for Nick. Obviously, 4 correct scores
Yeah.
straight away.
Very good.
I can't see me at any.
You were 5th, I think,
Oh,
with
yeah.
10 points. So you had a decent week. You had a couple of correct scores. Saturday, you got both matches spot on. So
Okay.
Good
God.
Where am I? I'm so far down. I'm not even on there.
you are actually 8th, I think. You got 1 correct score as well.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
So you got 9 points.
Yes, you are. I can see it.
Well, that's pretty good then.
So
And so
we'll now transfer over that to the league table.
Oh, there I am.
Right down the bottom.
Oh, that's not a bad place for me, considering I've missed half the
Yeah.
season, is
Yeah,
it?
18th. So 10 points.
Yeah, well done.
That's probably as much as I scored the whole of last season, isn't
Probably
it?
is, yeah. But obviously, Nick obviously getting 13 points. Really good week for him. That's put him joint top with myself.
God,
And he gets the top spot purely because he's got more correct scores than me. In fact, he's got 5 over the season so far. So that's pretty impressive. So,
Simon must be smashing the screen up by now.
well, I think a couple of years ago he was about 18th halfway through, and he suddenly went on the charge and won it.
So what he does is lead everybody into a false sense of security.
let's not.
Let him win a few, and then I'll
I wouldn't
play
write him
properly.
off. I wouldn't write him off just yet. So.
Right.
So we'll get on to the fixtures, because obviously with it being a bank holiday weekend, we have got quite a few fixtures to get through.
Okie dokie.
So we'll start off on tomorrow night on the BSN series, Oxford against Plymouth.
You're going to start that one off, Chris.
Oh, am I?
Yeah. You're
Okay, so who was it again?
Oxford versus as if it matters.
You know me, I study the form every week.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to go Oxford by 6.
I'm going to say Plymouth by 2.
That's close.
I'm going to say Oxford by 10. Although Plymouth had a great result, and obviously they came from quite a way back to beat Poole. And nice that they had a little bit of a dig at Poole on their social media. Did Poole have a problem with their Twitter account because it stopped working after hit 10? So. You shouldn't see more of that in Speedway, to be fair. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, so.
Absolutely.
Okay. Next on, in the NDL, also tomorrow night, Kings Lynn Young Stars against the Birmingham Bulls.
That's up to me. I'm going to say Kings Lynn by 6.
I'm going to say Kings Lynn by 12 on that one.
Kings Lynn by 4.
Okay. Well, tomorrow, Thursday night at Sheffield, we will talk about this afterwards, of course, is the British semi-final, so we will touch on that after we go through the fixtures. But let's move on to Friday now. Redcar against Workington in the BSN series.
That's up to you, Matt.
Redcar by 4.
Redcar by 12.
Redcar by 6.
Just before the next one, don't forget to get your rider of the week in quickly. Thank you. I've just been reminded.
Brian reminded you.
I've just been reminded by Brian. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, next up, also in the BSN series, Edinburgh against Berwick.
That's you, Chris.
Edinburgh by 6.
Edinburgh by 10.
I'm going to go Edinburgh by 10 as well. Been a bit of an up and down start season for the Monarchs, isn't it?
It has a little bit.
Okay. Then on Saturday, also in the BSN series, Workington against Scunthorpe.
Up to Mike.
Yeah. I haven't done it for a while. I'm going to go draw.
Yeah, you didn't do it last week, I noticed. So.
It's probably why I got such a good score.
I'll go for Workington by 8.
Workington by 2.
Okay. Okay, also on Saturday, in the quarter-final first leg in the Knockout Cup, Berwick against Redcar.
That's me, isn't it?
No, it's Matt.
That's Matt.
Redcar by 2, I'll go for on that one.
I'll go Berwick by 2.
Am I going to go draw again?
That means you've got to go for a draw in the second leg as well. So.
Yeah. Berwick by 2 as well.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, on Sunday, in the National Development Trophy, Leicester against Birmingham. It's a tricky one for the Bulls, that is. Against the Leicester side that have done really well in the National League.
It's up to you, Chris.
Leicester by 12.
I think it's a tricky track for you for that level.
Yeah.
So, yeah, do you know what? I'm going to say Leicester by 10.
Leicester by 14 also on that one. Okay. Also on Sunday in the evening, Glasgow against Berwick. That's in the BSN series as well.
Okay. Glasgow by 8.
Glasgow by 12 also on that one.
I'll go Glasgow by 6.
Okay, now we've got a packed day on Monday in the Premiership, obviously with there being a bank holiday. So first of all, 12 o'clock start, Bellevue against Sheffield.
Ooh, Matt, that's up to you.
I'll go Bellevue by 12.
How do we think the changes have worked for Sheffield? No answers.
Not really, not sure really, to be honest. It's certainly early days yet, I think.
Anyway, Bellevue by 10.
Is it my go? I'm
Yeah.
going to go here. Bellevue by 6.
Okay then. Right, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Oxford against Birmingham.
Be careful.
Oh dear. Oxford by 14.
Depending on who's riding for us.
Yeah.
Birmingham by 4.
I'm going to go for a Birmingham win as well.
Yeah.
Birmingham
Really?
by
Yeah,
6.
Oxford are really not very good.
Oh God, are they that
They
bad?
had a really bad start.
Okay. And then at 2:15 in the afternoon, Ipswich against Kings Lynn.
That's up to me, isn't it?
Right for Kings Lynn, I think, isn't it, that one?
Kings Lynn by 30. That's Ipswich by 30.
No, we've got to take your first answer. So.
Ipswich by 30.
Yeah, I'm going to go for something like that. I'll go the same. Ipswich by 30.
Ipswich by 22.
Just pull that out.
What
of
do
the
I
air.
know?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then as we head into the evening, it's the same. It's the first two fixtures we've got, but they are the reverse ones. So it's now Sheffield against Bellevue.
Sheffield. And that's up to you, Matt.
Sheffield by 12.
Sheffield by 14.
Sheffield by 8.
Okay. Meanwhile, at Perry Bar, it's the reverse fixture, Birmingham against Oxford.
And that's up to you, Chris.
Oxford by 14.
He's not been listening, has he?
He's a typical Brummy, isn't he?
Birmingham by 12.
I'll go for Birmingham by 10 on that one. And
I've got
finally,
it right before in the end.
and finally, 8:15 on Monday, the Steelers against the Bellevue Colts. That's at Sheffield. That's effectively the Sheffield and Scunthorpe combined NDL team. That is in the National Development League as well.
And that's up to me, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's quite a tough one. Sheffield by 4.
I'll go Bellevue by 8.
I'll go Sheffield by 2.
Okay, are we up?
That's it. That is the
Oh,
last
right,
one. Yeah.
okay. Well, good stuff.
Okay.
Okay, then rider of the week. Can I have your 2 nominations, and we can of riders that you've seen a ride this week?
I
Either
would
on
go
TV or
purely.
whatever.
I thought he was better last night for Birmingham, but purely because of that last race, I'll go for Tobias Mueslick.
It was a cracking race.
Yeah, really.
I've considered going. For me, it's a toss up between Muslak and Dan Thompson at the moment.
Yeah. I'll go for that purely because I saw it live,
Yeah.
so and I haven't seen.
By the same logic, then I'm going to go for Muslak as well.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so we got 2 votes.
Should our votes count?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, at the end of today, it's going to be the rider of the month, isn't it? For
That's it,
April,
yeah.
because it's finished. And I'll tell you who's in the lead at the end of it. But we need some more votes.
Okay, give us your rider of the night over the next 10
There's another one
minutes.
for Dan there as well.
Okay.
Okay, so here you go.
Okay, so let's have a look at the riders, obviously, that are going to be riding on Thursday in
Yes.
the semi-final of the British Championship. So, not in draw order. Carl Howarth, Lewis Kerr, Craig Cook, Connor Mountain, Dan Thompson, Drew Kemp, Jordan Jenkins, Leon Flint, Jason Edwards, Ben Barker, Simon Lambert, Joe Thompson, Alfie Botel, Dan Gilkst, Ashton Boven, and Nathan Ablett. And the standbys, in case of any injuries, of course, Daniel Hume, Sam Hagan, Luke Harrison, Jake Mulford, Vinnie Ford, and Luke Killeen.
Will Ben Barker be riding?
It was he had a big off, didn't he, over
Quite
the
a
weekend?
big off,
yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
We should say get better soon.
Yeah, I mean he seems to be bulletproof, doesn't he, Ben Barker? To be fair, he's had big offs before, hasn't he? And he's got up and walked away from them. So, but
yeah.
obviously he's not getting any younger now as well. So,
Ben Cresswell's put Tom Brennan as a
Yeah,
rider
got that
of
one
the
down,
night.
yeah.
yeah, possibly, yeah.
Oh, it's fairly difficult. Who goes through? How many go through?
I'm not sure how many go through exactly. I think it's 6 places. Yeah, top 6 go through.
You could see Dan Thompson winning that on his current form.
Well, I suppose the favourite is going to be Carl Howarth because he's home tracker, isn't it? So, Lewis Kerr probably wasn't the best of choices for as a guest for Birmingham last night.
Did we have much?
Really
Did we have
who
much
who
choice?
they could get, to be honest. I think, yeah, if they'd have had Zagar, they might have been able to nick a win out of that Birmingham, but we're never going to know. Dan Thompson's flying; he's going to fancy his chances.
Well, it's not going to be Carl Howarth.
Yeah.
Because Chris Thorogood says, I'll be at Leicester on Thursday supporting Dan Thompson and Jordan Jenkins. For your information, Lawson has withdrawn from the British final,
Right.
so Howarth is now seeded to the final with Hume coming into the semi.
Okay, so not Carl Howarth then. So good job that wasn't his prediction. Yeah, Dan Thompson, you've got to look at him. He's going to fancy his chances. Drew Kemp, obviously, home track advantage as well. And, it'd be interesting to see whether Ben Barker does does ride.
He might fancy his chances in that
Yep.
company.
I probably would go for Dan Thompson, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. That's the name that struck out for
Yeah.
me.
Dressner, but how do you think he started for Birmingham so far?
Not great, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think he's gone backwards a little bit. I don't know whether it's a confidence thing. I mean, his first race last night was, well, awful.
Yeah.
And then his next race was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he's not consistent, is he?
Yeah, but then he was a bit hit and miss after that, I think.
Well, I think you can say that about both the Birmingham reserves, though, because Vilas hasn't got going at all, has
I'm
he?
very disappointed in it. I had, because when he came over last year and rode at our track, he rode it really well, and I thought he looked good.
Yeah.
But he hasn't. It's not only that he's not winning races; he's not looked
Competitive,
good.
really, has he?
No, he's not looked good on the bike, has he?
Yeah,
So,
in fact, I would say he's probably got worse in all the matches I've seen him. He's just, I mean, he was really, really poor for Birmingham last night. You know,
we're losing it in the reserve.
and if
position
Birmingham
a
do
lot.
make a change, then he possibly might be the one that makes way, I think. If they can, it depends, I suppose, as well, who they can bring in. So,
I have to say, Keenan Roos had a great start to the season.
yeah, I would think at the early stages of the season, he looks like he's going to be a good bet for Rider of the Year for Birmingham.
He's going to end up as our number one when the new averages come out. I think I'm pretty sure he's going to end up, and that's just bad for him. It's what happened to Tom Brennan last year.
Yeah.
He's riding out of position.
Yeah.
Not going to give you're coming up against the likes of Jason Doyle and Emil Saivutinov in the best will in the world.
I don't think it helped with Tom Brennan as well. It was not just the fact that he was riding out of position. He was probably riding too much at times last season as well. It seemed like every other day he was racing in a meeting, which obviously he wants to keep busy and it's good money for him. But
Brian Reeson says, "What do you think of last night's TNT meeting?" I actually didn't see it.
I haven't seen any of it, to be honest. So,
I was at Birmingham, obviously.
Obviously, I think a lot, as I said earlier on, I think a lot of people would have been hopeful that was going to be quite a close match. With two teams that are struggling, but that was pretty damning for Oxford that they're on the end of a big defeat like that.
So, what did you think of it, Brian, and anybody else out there? What was your thoughts on that one?
So what's the TNT meeting?
TNT.
That's the live television one.
Oh, right, okay.
So.
Oh.
Yeah, keep up. Sorry, it's difficult at times.
It's only took me 15 years. I'm learning.
You're not.
No, I'm not, am I?
You just predicted Oxford to beat Birmingham at Birmingham.
Looking at
you laughs last.
Looking at the semi-final as well, I mean, Jordan Jenkins is going to have fancy his chances as well, isn't he? So,
yes.
Possibly, Leon Flint's, he's started okay for Sheffield, isn't he? So,
He has, yeah. It's more of his sort of a track, I think. Yeah, I mean, and I guess the goal is to qualify, not
ultimately,
necessarily
you don't need to win the meeting, do you? Just get in the top six, and then you've got to you go to Bellevue for the final, which of course is on May the 12th, back on a Monday. Disappointingly, I think, because I think that was great. The fact that it was a Saturday last year. I think that I've always thought British final should be on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Perfect night for it. But I suppose whether that's because it's the British Grand Prix is going to be there as well.
Yeah.
Could argue whether the British Grand Prix should be at the same track as the British final. Maybe the British final should have moved to another venue for this year.
Maybe. It's there's only going to be one track left soon the way we're going anyway. So
yeah,
we will have all the teams will be racing from Bellevue. That's the way forward. Birmingham versus Bellevue at Bellevue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Chris Thorogood says, yes, it was a poor meeting, but mainly because Oxford are awful. Brummies will beat Oxford twice on Monday.
I hope so. However, we have a habit of shooting ourselves in the foot on things like this.
And clicking that pen.
Yep. Yes.
Oxford, Craig Smith says, Oxford look very poor, feel there'll be changes soon. Peter Stroke wasn't happy at all.
Well, you should have chosen a better team.
Yeah, it looked weak from the start, though, didn't it, Oxford?
Shane Rawle, he says, brilliant 15 years, Chris. You made things happen.
I don't know whether that's sarcastic or...
Now, do you two need to get a room is where I'm wondering.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, he's serious? Oh, right, okay, thank you. I've got my my fans. I was going to say fans. I've got my
You got your fan club,
I've got my
yeah.
fan club. There you go. Cheers, Shane.
Okay, I mean, yeah. What do we say about Oxford? Started off so well last year. I mean, running in the 3 leagues. I mean, that's a hell of a commitment, isn't it? Hell of a commitment to Speedway.
I think really from what I've heard, they needed to run in the 3 leagues because they've obviously got to try and run as many meetings as possible there. So it made sense for them to do that.
But they had an okay year last year, I thought.
Well, to be honest, Oxford, since they came back, have been very, very consistent, haven't they? They had a good first year, good second year, made the move to the top league last season, did pretty well, just missed out on the playoffs.
Yeah.
This has been the first year where it's really, really not starting well at all for them.
It's fallen apart a little
Yeah.
bit.
I'm just conscious as well because, we saw this with Oxford when they closed back in 2011. It was on the back of 4 or 5 gradually worsening seasons. Of course, in the end, they lost Oxford for nearly 15 years.
It says Bend 4 Brown here. You've never stood on Bend 4 in your life.
I don't think he actually means that. But we'll move on from that.
I think so, yeah. We don't want to get kicked off, do we?
Yeah, no.
Oh dear.
Oh, I see.
The cogs are turning.
Yeah, the penny has dropped.
That's not the right one, is it? I should have had this one. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So, well, we've got about 5 minutes left, so I'd like to go back to the topic that we started the beginning of the show with, which is the topic really the same topic we spend on every year, which is the state of British Speedway and what do we do. And we've got this situation at the moment where it's definitely a 2-tier league.
Yeah.
Proven again tonight, last night rather, with the
Results.
Results.
That we got, yeah.
and I know that there are problems, but with
Could argue it's a 3-tier league because I think Leicester's sort of on their own, aren't they? Because they're not as good as the top 3 tiers, but they're far better than the 3 tiers.
Leicester will be in a position to pick up the pieces if somebody drops the ball through injuries or whatever.
Well, they did that last year, didn't they? So at the end of the day, so
Now I know people say, and I understand why they say that rider control doesn't work, etc., but I think whenever it was tried in the past, there were many more teams on the go, much more rider availability, much more money about.
yeah.
It's not that situation
More
now.
supporters going through the turnstiles as well, I think, in a lot of cases.
And teams like Oxford, teams like Kings Lynn, teams like Birmingham need help. And the sport needs teams like Birmingham and Oxford, and et al. We need more teams, and the sport needs Birmingham, the sport needs Kings Lynn, the sport needs Leicester. We need all of them.
Especially if you get a situation where, at the end of the season, if they still know that they're going to be running the following season, where Birmingham, Kings Lynn and Oxford walk away for it, say, sorry, unless things changes, we're not coming back in the league. And then couldn't really have a 4-team league. Well,
No, nothing would surprise me. Nothing would surprise me. Craig Smith said, I thought the production from TNT last night was very good. Its graphics especially was certainly a step up from Eurosport and looked closer to the Sky Sports years, in my opinion. I have to say, talking about graphics and so on, don't BSN do really good, real professional.
That's been one of the best things that's happened in British Speedway over the last 30 years. It's been, we said for years, didn't we, why isn't British Speedway streaming meetings? This has been hugely successful. It's affordable, very good coverage, and very, very professional.
So when you say affordable, how much is it?
It costs less to watch a match. If you're just going to watch a match, even if you just buy one match at a time, it costs less to watch the match than it does to go to the match.
Yeah.
I think that makes it affordable, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's almost the definition of affordable.
That's good.
And part of that then is siphoned through to the clubs and so on, I believe. So obviously,
Well, we need to round off now. We're on 9 o'clock. You can do that one if you want to.
We will finish. Yeah, we'll just finish with. I think Shane Rawls has hit lots of nails on the head.
Yeah.
The English League Speedway system is dead. We should say the British League system, really, shouldn't we? System is dead. The sport needs a complete overhaul. Problem is, you have to kill off the BSPA.
Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Okay.
It's true.
I think that's true. The BSPA
Seems harsh, but it's true.
It's not fit for purpose anymore. It's not working. Patently, it isn't working. But hey ho. Okay. We will. Sorry, just reading one of the comments. We will finish on that. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your bank holiday.
Yep.
And see you same time, same place next week. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a drink, have your say. All opinions here today. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Enjoy your stay. Whether